never amount to anything.
You are so dumb. What an idiotic decision you made. Again.
You still from the hood, right? Gang, or don't bang. You can't change? You stupid if you leave the hood. Buster. Oh my, you ain't from the hood, he? How that 50 Cent song go? Wangstead?
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Manifold Project, where we're all about building a blueprint to break cycles and rebuild lives. I'm Jay, and this is week 1 of Owning Your Story. Today, we're talking about something real personal because I know a lot of you are coming from places people don't understand, places that shape you in ways you may not even see yet. Maybe you're out there thinking, man, this is my life, this block, this set, this rep, this is all I got. I've been there and I know what that feels like. And today we're going to flip that script. We're going to talk about your past is not your sentence. It's not your life sentence. It's your chapter. How you can take all those experiences, both the good, the bad, the ugly, the rough, and you can use that to fuel what comes next. Let me open this up with a piece of my own story. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and I didn't always have my dad around. My dad didn't have his dad around. So you know how that cycle goes. I know a lot of us didn't, right? The streets and the big homies became somewhat of a father figure. The older heads, the set, the block parties where people you thought was showing you love, but they also tried to toughen you up real quick. I mean, 1997, I used to come visit my grandma in Kansas City, Missouri in the summers. And so one summer I ended up in Kansas City, Missouri. I thought at the time I was visiting my grandma for the summer. My mom stayed and my brother stayed back in Los Angeles, California. And so one day I was asleep in my room at my grandma's house in Kansas City, Missouri. And I woke up and my mom was there. And I woke up confused thinking like, what are you doing here? And she was like, we live here now. And so that was my way of making that exodus. But I was still willing to go back to Los Angeles, to go back to the hood, go back to the set with the homies and all that. But with my mom moving and taking my way from getting back to Los Angeles, it started my journey of change and transformation, of breaking a typical cycle of the men in my family that were gangbangers, that were put in prison for some time, that created broken homes. So this was my opportunity to change and transform that. It was at this point that I hit a real crisis, a crisis of not knowing what to do or where to go. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about, where you look around and you think, is this it? Am I just going to stay stuck in this cycle till it ends in a cell or a grave? That's when I realized I had a choice. Getting out of that environment, getting out of the city, getting out of the set, getting away from the homies, it helped me to realize that there's more to life than going to a jail cell or ended up in the grave. It was at this point when I realized that I had a choice. I could accept that story, I could let it define me, or I could take the time, own it, own the fact that I was a gangbanger or ex-gangbanger, and I could choose to rewrite my own story, which is what I chose to do. But I started with a blank slate. I didn't have nobody to coach me and tell me this is how you do it. This is what you go through. This, you do this, that, and the third. I didn't have nobody to tell me how to do that. And so my goal is to help you, people who come from the streets, gangbangers, or you don't even necessarily have to be a gangbanger, but you could be somebody who grew up in the streets and you want something more. You want something better. You want to change your family history. You want to break the cycle. And so I want to give you the blueprint to do that. That's when I realized I had a choice. I could accept that story, I could let it define me, or I could own it and rewrite it. Owning my story meant admitting where I'd been, what I'd done, and deciding that's not where I choose to stay. It's like being handed a book that's half written. You got rough pages, ink smudge. You can say, this is the final draft, or you can pick up the pen and keep writing. And I decided to keep writing. I wanted something different. So what do I mean by owning your story? It's about facing your past head on, not running from it, not pretending it never happened, and not letting it hold you hostage, and not reenacting that story. There's some brothers who are either suffering from identity crisis, they lack self-awareness, or they're still trying to look for that affirmation, to look for that validation that comes with, trying to pursue a rep in the streets. And it's some guys still old, they're still trying to prove how street they are. But listen, being street does not come with a retirement plan, and it just looks quite ridiculous because there's a lot of guys out there that are old enough to get an AARP card, Medicare, and senior discounts at IHOP or whatever. You're being held hostage by a story that needs to be rewritten. So owning your story means you acknowledge every scar and every lesson hidden in those bruises. It means you understand that your environment shaped you, but it doesn't have to define your future. Think about it. The streets teach you certain things, how to watch your back, how to read people real quick, how to spot danger before it pops off. Now, sure, maybe those lessons came wrapped in trauma, wrapped in violence or fear, but what if those skills, the situational awareness, the loyalty, hustle, could be flipped into something legit? Owning your story is about seeing value in the experiences that almost broke you and using them to build something better. People often say your past doesn't define you, and that's true, but you got to do the work to make that real. If you're always hiding from who you were, you're giving that old life power it doesn't deserve. By owning it, you say, yes, that happened. Yes, I made those moves, but now I'm making new ones because I have a vision and I have a choice. Now let's talk about how to turn these lessons into something that can actually push you forward. Maybe you're fresh off the block. Maybe you just getting out of jail. Maybe you still got 1 foot in the streets and 1 foot out. That's cool. I'm not judging you. You just need to know there's a path to something better, to something more. So the first thing you want to do is you want to acknowledge your past without shame. Writing it down helps. So grab a piece of paper, or you got a phone, Android, Apple, iPhone, whatever. There's a note app in there. You could write down one event from your past that still gets to you, something that makes you feel stuck. Be real. No one's grading this. You don't have to show anybody this. This is just something you getting out of your system and onto something outside of yourself. I got locked up at 17 for. I robbed this person for, or I lost a friend or family member to gang violence. Whatever it is, acknowledge it. 2, after you acknowledge it, you want to pull out a lesson. Now ask yourself, what did I learn from that? Maybe you learned that when you roll with the wrong people and you keep the wrong people in your circle, you pay the price. Maybe you learned that life is fragile. Maybe you learned that you're stronger than you thought. out because you're still here. You're breathing. A lot of people ain't, and you're ready to try again. Identifying this lesson turns your pain into wisdom. Third, what you want to do is you want to apply it to the present. Next, think, how can I use this lesson? If you learn that hanging with the wrong people and keeping the wrong people in your circle leads nowhere, it leads to betrayal and other kind of hurtful stuff, maybe you start checking who's around you today, who you got in your circle today, who you keeping in your circle today that could cost you. Maybe it's somebody who may snitch on you about something, but you want to take what you know about the past and you want to apply it to your present. If you learn you're stronger than you thought, maybe you start taking small steps toward a legit goal, like applying for a job or taking a class or reconnecting with a family member. The fourth thing you need to do is create a vision for tomorrow. Write down one step you'll take this week to live differently. It might be as simple as talking to someone who's on a better path and asking for advice. Maybe you cut back on hanging in certain spots that tempt you to get back into the old habits. Each small step you take is a page in the new chapter of your story. So remember, your past might explain you, but it doesn't have to define you. Let's bring in a timeless principle here without getting all preachy. There's an old saying, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Break that down. If you believe you're stuck, that's how you'll live. If you believe you can grow, that's how you'll live. Owning your story means shifting your belief system. Shifting your belief system. You got to change your outlook. You got to change the way you look at and see things. If you want to change your life, you have to change the way you think, because you make decisions based on what you're thinking. So change the way you think. Hang around some people that think differently than you. If the people you hang around contributes to destructive ideas and a destructive belief system, you need to break that and hang with somebody who will help you think differently. Change your belief system. If you come from a background of survival mode where you just react to whatever comes at you, owning your story means stepping into creation mode. You create your future. You're not just waiting on fate or someone else's permission. And I know it's not easy. You might have homies who still live that old way, and they might even clown you for trying something different. They might say, who do you think you are? That's where you gotta stand firm, because guess what? If they don't want you to rise, that says more about their fear than your potential. You got potential, King. You got potential. All right, we talked a lot, so let's break this down into a quick action plan. First, write it down. Take 5 minutes today, just 5 minutes, and write one event or situation from your past that still weighs on you. 2, find a lesson. Under that, note the one lesson you can pull from it. 3, you want to apply it. Decide on one action you'll take this week to reflect that lesson in your life now. Maybe it's calling someone who's got a different path and asking for mentorship. Maybe it's cleaning up your social media or fixing your resume. 4th, you want to commit to growth. Remind yourself daily, I own my story. My past is a chapter. My past is a chapter, not my final word. I want you to know this. If you're listening right now or you're watching right now on YouTube or Spotify, you're already showing that you believe in the possibility of change. You're investing time in yourself, and that's huge. Don't underestimate that. Next week, we're going to build on this foundation. We'll talk about seeing your worth beyond the block, beyond the set, beyond the hood, or whatever you choose to call it. Measure yourself by something deeper than where you come from. But for now, focus on step 1. Own your story. There's real power in facing who you've been so you can become who you're meant to be. I appreciate you spending time with a brother. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Hit me up in the comments or DM me your thoughts. I love to know what stands out to you. Until next time, remember to break cycles and build legacies. Manifold Project, the blueprint for breaking cycles and rebuilding lives. Peace.